So today, so today, we are going to start our new lesson, which is about simple comparison, but we are going to discuss the techniques that belong to non-parametric techniques. So the idea is the same. How do we compare two parameters, two population parameters? Before we discuss about three methods, they are called parametric because they are based on a sampling distribution. The sampling distribution where the sampling distributions are, first is the Z distribution or the normal distribution, and we have the T distribution, okay, two of them. We discussed the Z test. We also discussed the T test. So the T test is split into two, which is the independent t-test and the dependent t-test. So I hope that you can still remember those tests. And we are going now to discuss another new techniques, but they are called non-parametric. We will discuss later why it's called non-parametric. So let me start. Okay na ba ang screen? Nakita na ninyo?
Yes, sir.
So simple comparison. Okay, so ano ang mga learning objective natin dito? So the first objective is to state the advantages and disadvantages of non-parametric methods. The second is to test hypothesis using the sign test. This is the first non-parametric that we discussed. And the third objective is to test hypothesis using the Wilkinson rank sum test. Okay? And later we are going to also discuss independent and independent and dependent test, not the non-parametric. Okay. So what's the difference between non-parametric and parametric? First, when you say parametric, these are actually statistical tests that involve assumptions about the populations from which samples were selected, such as assumption of normality. So that's why we always discuss the assumption, or we always say that the population or the samples come from normal population or normally distributed population or T-distributed. So those are the assumptions for normal. Those are the assumptions that we make. And these assumptions are what we call distributional assumptions, because we say that the population is distributed in some way. And usually it's normal. Nakuha nyo? So pag sinabing parametric, most of the time, the assumption is the population is normally distributed. Okay? Ngayon, ano naman ang non-parametric? Bakit naman sinabing non? Of course, opposite lang siya, non-parametric. Sample selected is not normally distributed or is distributed in any other particular way. Okay? Parametric, normal. Non-parametric, hindi normal. Pero of course, hindi pa rin natin pwedeng sabihin na walang assumption. All these tests work if we satisfy certain assumption. And in fact, for non-parametric, meron siyang assumption. And the assumption is, dapat it comes from a distribution that is symmetric. Okay? Wala na yung normal. Ang isang assumption lang na gagamitin is, it should come from a symmetric distribution. What? Yes. Okay. So, kailan gagamitin? When ang non-parametric, gagamitin siya pag hindi natin pwedeng i-assume na normal siya. Yes. If we cannot assume normality, then use non-parametric. That's why when you do non-parametric, sometimes you have to test the normality assumption. Kasi kung hindi naman mag-apply ang normality assumption, then use non-parametric tests. Okay. Somebody move this window away from me. Somebody move window. Siya nagsasabi move window. Window away. Okay. So, what are the assumptions for non-parametric? First is the samples are random. Yan pa rin, random pa rin siya. Okay? And if two or more samples are used, they must be independent of each other unless stated otherwise. If they are independent, we have tests for that. If they are dependent, we have also tests for that. Okay? So ano ba ang advantages ng non-parametric over parametric? So first is magamit natin siya kung ang ating population parameters or when the variables is not normally distributed. Okay? So magamit natin siya to test population parameters even when our population is not normally distributed. Okay. Second, pwede siya actually magamit kung ang data natin ay nominal or ordinal. Ano ba yung nominal ordinal? Sino makapagsabi sa akin ngayon kung ano yung nominal tsaka ano yung ordinal? Princess. Shermani. Daniele. Tasa po di mo name mo eh. Princess. Shermani. Daniele. Matas. Wala ko na dungog princess. Nag-istorya na ka? Next one. I can't hear anything. Wala, di lagi ko ka. Hello. Wala nila yan sa inom. Si Kuan na lang, si Nadine. Kaya ni Nadine? Good. Good. So nominal meaning name label lang siya. And ordinal is rank. Tama. Or merong order. Okay? Good. Okay. So ano ba yung So pwede natin siya actually magamit kahit yung data natin is nominal or ordinal. Okay? Kaya ang ano kasi ang yung mga parametric hindi siya pwede sa nominal, okay? Or ordinal. Mas better siya kung interval or rational. Hindi. Okay. So ano pa? They can be used to test hypotheses that do not involve population parameters. No, so kahit na yung yung mga may mga test tayo na For example, are they symmetric or not? Then we can use the non-parametric. So it's not necessarily comparing two population parameters, but we can also do tests regarding the characteristic of the population. Yeah? So yan sinasabi na that do not involve population parameters. Okay? Kasi it could be just comparing the signs, counting the signs, or just trying to find whether equal ba yun, I mean, may median ba siya? Parang ganun yung mga test. Okay? And number 4, the computations are easier, okay, than those for parametric. So madali lang i-compute. Okay? Number 5, madaling intindihin. And number 6, there are fewer assumptions that have to be met, and the assumptions are very easy to verify or easier to identify or to verify compared to the parametric tests. Okay? Yan yung mga advantages. Ano naman ang mga disadvantages? So, pag sinabi natin disadvantages, ito naman yung advantage ng parametric over non-par. Okay. Ang non-par is they're what we call less sensitive. Okay. So, ano ba yung sinasabi nating sensitivity in terms of testing? Pag sinabi nating sensitive, di ba ang ano natin, ang gusto nating malaman is mayroong difference, diba? Yan ang gusto nating malaman usually sa test, kung may difference ba or not. Ngayon, ang paggamitin natin ng non-param, less sensitive siya. So, it means that it requires a bigger difference before natin ma-detect yung difference na yun. Kagaya ng, let us say, i-test natin kung magkamukha ba yung dalawang tao. Ano? Kung twin yung dalawang tao, hindi ma-identify ng non-par kung pareho bang tao yun or not. Kung twin sila, kasi nga, analogy lang to kasi nga, ang idea is dapat muna matingnan kung malaki muna ang difference bago natin masabing may difference. So example, kung compare natin yung mukha ko tsaka ni Ma'am Novi, no? Malaki masyado ang difference. So therefore, masabi natin na ma-detect yan ng non-par. Pero kung sabihin natin na, compare natin na mukha ko kay Angelina Jolie, halos magkamukha kami, hindi ma-detect yan ng non-par. Kasi masyadong close yung beauty, kumbaga. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng sensitivity. Okay? Second, they tend to use less information than the parametric test. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng less information? Kasi, sa ano kasi yan? Ang idea kasi, bakit siya disadvantage, if we can, the more information that we can incorporate in the test, the more reliable yung test natin. Kasi kung isang information lang gagamitin natin sa isang test, maaari na hindi makapture ng information na yun yung difference. So for example, sabihin natin, yung example ko pa rin yung compare natin ako sa movie. Kung gagamitin lang natin yung information on intelligence, maaaring hindi ma-detect kasi nga pareho kami na matalino. Pero kung gamitin natin, let us say, yung may question yata. Gamitin natin yung let us say, ano ba? Yung malaki talaga ang difference. Yung ano na lang, yung height. Okay? Yung weight na lang, weight. Yung weight, maaari may difference kami ng weight. Pero, so ma-detect na may difference. Pero kung ang ginagamit ng test is intelligence lang, maaari na kulang siya. Unlike sa parametric na marami siyang ginagamit na information. For example, ginagamit niya yung estimated mean. Ginagamit niya yung standard error. Ginagamit niya yung sample size. Ginagamit niya yung degree of freedom. Ginagamit niya yung distribution itself. So yun, maraming information. So, ang effect niyan is that since we use many information, possible na may mas ma-detect tayo na difference. Okay? And then the third one is less efficient pag non-parametric. So the less efficient, ibig sabihin that kung hindi natin ma-meet yung assumptions ng parametric, less efficient siya. Why? Because mas malaki dapat na sample size ang kukunin natin sa sa non-par para makadetect tayo ng difference compared sa parametric. So yun ang ibig sabihin ng less efficient. Mas sa stat kasi mas efficient siya kung we can get the same information or we can detect the same difference for a lower or a lesser number of example. Okay? So yan yung sinasabi dyan, no? Kung ang non-par would need 100, for parametric, it only needs 60. So less na siya efficient. Tama? Meaning, of course, it costs money to collect samples. No? Of course, it takes time to collect samples. So gusto natin efficient. Less samples, less time. But non-par, that's one of the main disadvantages ng non-par kasi nga, it needs more example to detect difference. Yeah? So ang technique kasi dito, guys, is kung magamit ang par, kung met ang assumptions ng par, we always go for parametric. Okay? Always yan siya. We always go for, if there is no compelling reason, if there is no strong reason to use non-par, then do not use non-par, but use non-par is statistical. And non-par, but use parametric tests. Okay. Pero of course, ito yung mga disadvantages. Ano naman ang mga advantages? Of course, na-mention na natin, no? Pero ulitin lang, tama, na-mention na pala last time, yung advantages. Okay.